Hi, I'm Ann Byers, and some of you look familiar. I work with the National Center for Appropriate Technology, the Pasture Project, which is a nonprofit organization serving farmers and ranchers with questions about just about anything related to sustainable and organic farming and ranching since 1976. And we have a website, atcra.org. And I'll be speaking next week, tonight, and I'm talking about regulations and such. So you can see there's room for more people. You can come back and invite your friends. I brought just a few examples of publications that, we have a lot of information on our website, dozens, actually hundreds of publications, short publications like this, but dozens actually about poultry. I brought a few of my favorites, which is Pastured Poultry Nutrition and Forages, which is written by my former colleague who's now a full-time pastured poultry farmer in Arkansas. And one on a tip sheet that describes the organic regulations, which is kind of what I'm good at. And then just some samples on small-scale egg handling and poultry processing. These are just a few of the many we have, but just wanted to bring you a few samples. So I'll look forward to having more to say myself, and then the farmer panel that we'll have next week, I'm very excited about that. We'll have 4 different farmers talking about economics and marketing. So we have a wealth of experience. But first one I want to introduce next to run into over many, probably decades now. Tim Mueller of Riverdog Farm is a longtime certified organic farmer in the Cuba Valley, not too far from here. Their farm has always produced a lot of organic crops and marketing directly through farmers markets and also wholesale, and you can say more about that. They added pastured poultry, pastured laying hens to their operation about 10 years ago. And we asked him to share his experience with managing pasture for poultry. I think there are a lot of people, there's a lot of knowledge base growing about how to manage pasture for ruminants, but if you look around, there's not a lot of experts in managing pasture for poultry. So we called on the farmer who, we're really pleased to have your expertise, Tim, and we'll look forward to hearing from Trini next week. His wife, partner, farming partner, will be part of that farmer panel talking about economics and marketing. Without further ado.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Tim Mueller with Riverdog Farm, and just talk about how we manage our pasture. I'm going to hopefully not wander around too much, but I'm happy to be led astray if somebody has a question. We have been farming since 1990, and in 2008 we added layers. In 2010 we added meat birds, and in 2009 we added hogs. They all live on separate pastures. And for just to kind of make sense of it, I'm going to talk about the layers first. The layers live in a pasture, and actually this pasture we just turned over before this last spring. So it has been in pasture for 4 years, which is longer than we normally like to be in pasture. But it'll go back in the veg this summer. And so we'll have a 120-day period before we can harvest anything, but it'll probably be more like half a year before we're harvesting anything out of that field again. I think we're going to go back in with summer squash, cucumbers, and things like that. And we will need to think about fertility for a few years on this piece of ground, because it's been an alfalfa clover grass mix grazed by hens. And so, and just in the background, you see our packing shed, you see our semi, you see one bobtail, we have 4 bobtails. So there's a lot of chaos around all this stuff happening. And while I run the operations, there are a lot of other people involved. At any given moment, we have at least 60 people on the farm working, and all of those 60 people are very, very important. So people tend to think about farmers as these solitary people, but without farm workers, we can't get it done. So it's just important to always remember that behind any farmer standing up talking somewhere, there's bevy of farm workers to make that whole system work, at least in a labor-intensive system. And the vast majority of our gross income comes from vegetables, and that is very labor-intensive. And pastured poultry is very labor-intensive. Just wanted to identify a little bit what we're seeing. You know, we see some nipple drinkers down there in the shade of the awning of that trailer, and these trailers move. There's two trailers side by side, and you see that shade cloth. It looks like it's fallen to the ground in this picture, so that's not perfect, but nothing ever is. So we stretch shade cloth between the houses to create additional sheltered space, so birds can hide from raptors and feel safe and comfortable. You can see the feeders are covered, and typically not too far from the trailers. The feeders are those wood structures in the background, so we can feed outdoors and not get feed wet. So the structures that you have are going to impact how you can rotate within that pasture. So these are old mobile home bases that we stripped down to the trailers and rebuilt coops on. Let's see what's next in line. Another shot of an older trailer. So you can see that's a alfalfa heavy pasture there, and I can see almonds blooming in the background. Typically in the winter, and sorry it happened this winter. Obviously it didn't happen that winter. We'll have a killing freeze that will kill that alfalfa by almond blossom. Although it may have recovered already, I guess, by the middle of February, late February. And so these trailers, and you can see the pasture's not too bad around that trailer, so it's been moved recently. We're moving these trailers every 1 to 3 weeks, depending on what the pasture is doing.
What do you supplement with when your alfalfa freezes?
So there's also there's ryegrass, there's a brome, and there's clover, and all of those do well in the winter. So it's interesting. I was just noticing. I was like, so much. But like right now, you'll see some pictures of pasture later that I took today. I think they're in the meat bird section, and you don't see any alfalfa in it. But in the summer, there's a lot of alfalfa in that same field. So the egg layers, we are rotating with vegetables. So like I said, every 2 to 4 years, really 2 to 3 years ideally, we're taking the egg layers out and we're moving back into vegetables and staying that way for probably 4 or 5 years, and then coming back in with the egg layers. But when you plant that pasture, it takes from October until really the following June before you can put birds in it. And we'll mow that pasture 2, 3, 4 times, depending on how the pasture is doing, before we move birds onto it, because we want everything to be really well rooted in, and we want that pasture to be vehicle ready before we start picking it up. Random shot of eggs, which gets a little bit to the question of who we have out there. And we have things like Araucanas or Americanas, which are really horrible egg producers. But people love having a blue egg in the mix. So we have some out there. You know. We have leghorns, we have barred rocks, we have australorps, we have Orpingtons. And they'll come in groups. We tend to keep them grouped by type. Or we'll have a little bit of mixing. We have a lot of red setzlings out of Bag Farm, right here in Dixon. But we have a lot of color variation because people love that. And we're selling most of our eggs at a farmer's market or to restaurants. we produced this past year a little over 50,000 dozen of our roughly 2,500 birds. So not a fantastic lay rate, but not a horrible lay rate.
What percent?
I don't know. Sorry, don't know that. Yeah. These are the feeders at work, and you see how that one's open, where it's loading some feed in. And you see that the pasture is pretty beat up right around that feeder, and that will recover in, depending on the time of year, in 2 weeks to 4 weeks. But that trailer is going to take a couple months before it gets back to that spot on the pasture. So we don't really break parasite cycles in that time, but the pasture has a lot of time to recover before we get back. And so we'll have these pods of about 500 birds rotating on roughly 4 acres. And so they're just going around and around on this 4 acres. And the birds at any given moment will wander into the far corners of the pasture, but 90% of the birds will stay within 200 to 300 feet of the trailers. So it makes good sense. See that hose on the ground? So in the summer, we will always have some misters running, and that hose is also filling that tank of water on the nose of the trailer, which then gravity feeds out the nipple feeders that are along the edges of the trailer. And you can see that the birds are somewhat clustered around the trailer, but you'll always find some away as well, especially in the morning and the evening. Just different lighting. Just a hen in a nest box there. Get a sense of the drinkers and the expanse of pasture. So in the summer, and really starting in May or so, we have to mow a lot of pasture. We're looking at introducing sheep to try to follow the chickens. You can't follow them with hogs because the hogs need a much sturdier fence, and they'll destroy this pasture in no time. But we'd like to find something to follow them with, or chop that for fresh feed for the hogs, because the hens can't keep up with the pasture from about May through September. There's always extra pasture. I don't feel bad mowing it, turning it back to the ground, but I think we could get more value if we were feeding it. But you have to have that much pasture to get through the winter, or we do. And so we're able, and it's irrigated. We're always irrigating this pasture. The issue of whether to not have wire bottom trailers. We do not have wire bottom trailers. It seems like the birds don't like them that much, and they love to hang out underneath the trailers. So yeah, getting food done is no fun. So but they do love to hang out under the trailers, and get a little sense of trailers are too weak. They do break over time, and we have some pretty old trailers at this point, some of which are falling apart. So it's you have to build your equipment stout enough to move, not quite 50 times a year, but certainly 40 times a year. And when we move the trailers, we don't move very far. Fencing. So we use a light-duty plastic fencing around 7 feet tall. Our primary goal is to keep the chickens in. There's 3 feet of galvanized poultry wire on the bottom to try to keep skunks and raccoons out. Bobcats will jump right over that fence, no problem. And so we really have to close the houses at night. It's added labor. You got somebody out there every night, sunset. In summer, they can't close houses until 9, 9:30. This time of year, close them up 5, 5:30, 6. But there's somebody wandering around closing coops every night, or the bobcat and coyote losses really out of fast. But bobcats and coyotes are nothing compared to the neighbor's dog. And so having a good relationship with your neighbors, making sure that they understand you keep the dogs in their own places, and having fences that are stout enough to repel errant dogs is important, but a dedicated dog, just like a dedicated coyote, will get through almost any fence. So make sure you're monitoring, and we do have cameras out all the time, so we can go to the neighbors and say, hey, this is your dog. You need to keep it home. Because we'll have dogs from as far as half a mile away. Yeah, we don't spend a whole lot of money on the fence. Because and even though we're only keeping it up for 2 to 4 years, fence is expensive. And it's really easy to move this plastic net. We do use straw as a bedding because we grow a lot of grain to feed our animals, and so we have a lot of straw. Works pretty well for us, but we do clean the houses once a week. And so it's hard to see in this picture, but that diagonal board is a roost. So the birds learn to roost early on. And at night, those roosts are full, and there are very few birds on the floor. And that back door in the trailer is so we can push all the straw out. And then one of the nice things about mowing the pastures in the summer is that we are also spreading that straw, food-filled straw. Just a happy hen out in the pasture. And you can see there's bales of straw sitting on the nose of that trailer waiting to go inside. You can see the shade cloth stretched between the houses to create additional space. The hens like taller pasture for feeling hidden, but they also tend to make nests and lay eggs if the pasture's smaller. So trade-offs. Just more hens out in the field. And you see again, that's some variety in that, but there's a lot of alfalfa in that pasture right there. I can tell from the hills that it's dry already or getting pretty dry. And it's a mixture of birds as well. We have a pretty low disease rates in our flocks. I think mostly by luck and by good nutrition. I don't really claim to do anything special for them other than to feed them well. They also get a lot of produce that comes back from farmers markets. So they're eating spinach, arugula, and things like that as well. Because once something's made a trip to a market, you really can't sell it again. Anything comes home, the pigs and chickens are eating. Well, pictures are changing over here. There we go. So this is something we haven't done for a long time, but we used to move the trailers into field crops. And this looks like a cabbage field that's gone flower, and we're using the chickens to clean it up. It didn't work that well. And we run into issues with being able to turn the field over fast enough. Yeah, we don't do any of that anymore. We're really trying to clean up crops quickly. But you see the houses all clustered together with the shade cloth moving in, creating additional shelter. You'll see the plastic is up on these, so it's still winter. You can see the flowering almonds in the background. We'll close the windows up for the winter and leave a foot or so open at the top. In the summer, that all comes down for better ventilation. Simple and cheap. And then moving into meat birds. So these are the houses that we're using now. And they're 10-foot wide, 20-foot long, 12-foot wide by 20-foot long. And they're hard to move. We have a special trailer to move them with. You can push them in a straight line with some dollies. You can jack it up and put these 4 dollies into the corners and push them along with 2 people. That's not so bad, but if you need to make a turn or anything like that, it's a pain. So we rotate the pastures around the house. And our meat birds live almost exclusively under orchards. This is an almond orchard. This is this morning. And I think the next slide Well, we'll get to our graveyard of structures that we're not using anymore. Sooner or later, they'll pop up here. Here we are inside one of these houses, and there's not a lot of bedding on there. CCOF doesn't like that I don't have a lot of bedding in there. The birds don't seem to really use bedding much when it's in there, and it makes it hard to move the houses because it starts to stack up. And they're outside most of the time, although this morning, there's still quite a few birds in there. The feeders are all inside there because of the rains that we just had over the weekend. Normally the feeders are all outside. The one in front, the Johnny's bucket, is a waterer. So the tarp is there to keep dust and birds from roosting on it and sleeping in it. There are nipple drinkers underneath that, and there are going to be more waterers outside also. There's one row in the graveyard. So these are old 6-foot wide, 12-foot long structures that we moved every day. And it was really easy to slip tires under them and just push them along. And they were pretty great. They were really much better for pasture management because we moved them every day. They weren't that hard to move, but there was too much edge effect on these in the winter. And animal welfare approved folks felt like they didn't give the chickens enough room to move, period. So this is a structure that we're not using right now. But I like them, and they're pretty simple construction. Picture of the door open. Nope. They're out of order. This is another style that we had that were like, they're A-frames. Not as good, and not as, in the summer they got way too hot because of no panels. These guys, the poly comes off and a blackout cloth goes on, and they stay relatively cool in the summer. But again, they need to be under orchard, especially in the summer. We like them in the orchard in the winter because we're fertilizing our orchards that way in the winter. Here we go. So one of the doors on one of the little houses that we're not using currently. So a lot of money into structures that we don't use anymore. That's okay. It's all part of the learning curve, and maybe we'll figure out how to use them again in the future. Right now, our biggest problem with meat bird production is Raptor Predation. So if you look in this picture, so Marco single-handedly raises most of these birds, most of our meat birds. And we harvest about 250 to 300 meat birds a week. But you see the bird netting that's strung between the trees, and that's trying to keep everything from kites and kestrels and red tails, and we had a great horned owl inside one of the houses the other morning. So yeah, everybody loves birds, and they're hard to keep out. And so that is, we traded in the problem of edge effect with these houses to free access with these houses. And so our mortality rates are actually similar, just different things killing the birds. So these are all just challenges. Who's just killing your birds before you do. But you can see pretty good pasture under that, and there'll be more pictures where the pasture isn't quite as good. So these are our brooder houses. The chicks spend the first 5 weeks in these houses, and after 2 weeks they start coming out, and so they have strips out in front of the house with just a 2-foot high chicken wire, and they do pretty well. They start coming out as soon as you open the door. They start the sun's out, they'll come out and start hanging out outside until they don't come out till their 3rd week. So here you can see those dark spots. That's where houses, those new style houses were, 3 months ago. And because it's winter, things are coming out slower. In the summer, we're having faster regrowth, but this is a challenge. And then because this is an orchard floor, you have to drag your mower, a flail mower, through that pretty hard to disperse all that material, because next fall we're going to need to be able to sweep that orchard floor to get the nuts out. And you can't have birds in these orchards 120 days before harvest. So we have birds in peaches, birds in apricots, birds in nectarines, plums, figs. So we have to be mindful of all of these harvest dates and keep those birds moving and cleared out ahead of schedule. So this is one of the challenges. We did not have burn spots in the pasture with the houses we moved daily. You'll see more of that. You can see those humps where there's straw and manure. We haven't hit that with the mower yet to spread it. And so those are, again, current list of failures that we're working out solutions for. And as far as I'm concerned, farming is solving one failure, trading one failure for another, and deciding which one you like more. So it's all a struggle. The almonds love having the chickens under them when the chickens aren't there. They love all that nitrogen, and they do well. They respond well to having the chickens. This almond orchard had not seen chickens for 3 years and was ready for chickens. So there you get a sense of the fenced area has had chickens in it for about a week, so we need to move the fence over. There are 4 quadrants around the house, of course, and we just keep moving those fences around the house. We keep some of the fences hot and some of the fences not hot, mostly because we don't have enough chargers, and it's a hassle to keep all the edges beat down. But as long as you're shocking some of the coyotes some of the time, they all seem to know to stay away from the white fences. So they don't really seem to figure out who's hot and who's not. And so we do have real coyote pressure in this particular field. We don't have a good external fence. We only have this fence. And that seems to work pretty well. So that's my little dog is foreground there. And again, you can see the difference where they're in eating. You see some spilled feed there. And if you look behind that house, you can see a clump of grass that's regrowing where the house was previously. And again, these houses, you're just jacking them up, sliding the dollies underneath them, and pushing them down the row. The birds live in these houses for about 8 weeks. So they go in just after their 5th week, and most of the time we're harvesting between 12 and 13 weeks. And these are a Freedom Ranger, formerly known as French Rangers, of course. So she was president in 2003. Pasture. So this is what the pasture looks like where the birds have not been yet. Pretty glorious stuff right now. And that'll regrow pretty quickly as long as we move them on fast. And another example of the couple-month-old spot. You see the pasture around it has come back beautifully, right where the house was, and move that. The center strip is where there's a little island in the house. That's a raised sleeping area. Because if they don't have somewhere high to go, when it rains really hard, like we had 2 1/4 inches yesterday, the houses will flood because water sheets across the orchard floor. And less so in this field than in another field. So we have to keep a place for them to escape the water within the houses.
Do you mind questions?
Jump in.
So are you raising meat birds year round?
We raise meat birds year round, yes. Yeah.
And that pasture mix, so you manage the cold and the wet, and figured out how to work around that?
It's challenging. It's challenging, and when we have really, really heavy rains, when we start seeing 4 and 5 inch rains, like we did a few years ago, we've had losses because, and that's what part of why we moved to this other style house. It has a basement living area.
Yeah. The Rangers are a bit more hardy than the Cornish Cross.
Yes. Yeah, the Cornish Cross don't make it through.
Yeah.
And the Rangers make it through the year really well. We found that the Cornish Cross couldn't even figure out what to do with the pasture unless you put some other birds in with them to show them, hey, you can eat this stuff.
The forage mix that you had there, does that come as a mix or is that a custom blend? Did you choose all the elements of that?
Blend, I think there it is. That's what that blend is right now. It holds up pretty well through the year. Sometimes we will go in and reseed with some more alfalfa. If we're not going to be on an orchard with chickens, we'll reseed with some alfalfa in March with a no-till drill, and because the chickens will high-grade out the alfalfa, and the deer will also high-grade out the alfalfa. So they like to get in there as well. But yeah, between the alfalfa and the grasses, there's plenty of cover in the summer, and the ryegrass in the winter seems to hold up really well. And the clovers regenerate pretty well in the winter, as long as you don't let them graze too hard.
And they make it through the summer,
They just go dormant.
Yeah. Hot summer.
What do you do with the laying hens when they're finished being productive?
We sell them as stew birds. We actually get pretty good money for them as stew birds, and people nag us when we don't have them. Hey, when are you going to kill some more hens?
So do you process your own?
No, we process all of our birds at American Poultry in Sacramento. And we go every week with between 250 and 300 meat birds. And so when we want to kill some layers, they're open to it. You might have to wait a month.
So are they packaged when they finish killing them, or do you have to package them?
We have to.
And you have to cut their feet off, or you keep their feet?
People who are going for broth want the head and feet anyway. We sell all of our meat birds head and feet on, and about 75% of our meat birds go to restaurants, and they're thrilled to have them.
Really? So the place you process them is?
Does not remove the head and feet.
No, they're legal to sell to restaurants after they're processed there.
Yes, it's a USDA plant.
And I have one other question. How do you keep the water cool in the summer?
We refill it twice a day. So
Yeah, but it's like over 100 degrees, and that water's got to be boiling hot.
so the houses are in the shade of the orchard.
Well, the ones that are in the pasture aren't, though.
Oh, you mean the layers?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for the layers, they have sprinklers running. So all the layer flocks, you saw that black tubing out there. So there's micro sprinklers running during the day. And so they are drinking off the micro sprinklers. And there's a gravity feed. Well, they are gravity fed to the nipple, but there's those barrels get filled at least once a day in the summer. Yeah.
I wonder because I drive by places where they have the water tank right on the house, and in this valley it's very hot, and I wonder how to keep the water cool enough that the hens will even drink it.
Yeah, no, it hasn't been an issue. It's good, but if they don't have the micro sprinklers, they're really not happy, and mortality can spike. We keep our hens for 3 years, which is not really a recommended practice. Most people think that they're done laying at that point, but we don't use lights, so I think we actually see a longer laying length because they're laying less intensively. I don't know, somebody who's got a more scientific approach to this might have a better answer for that.
Basically, you're on the right track. When they're hatched, they have about 2,000 ova, and that's all they get. And when you slow them down like that, you've extended a couple extra years for them versus the intensity where they're going to burn out 700, 800 eggs in a couple of years. So
So
When they're done, they're
Just
done.
all their ova?
No, they'll last about 10 years. I grew up doing what you're kind of doing. I had hens that are 8, 9 years old, still laying eggs.
Yeah.
Not very many, but still laying eggs. But when their ovaries are all done, they're done. Not gonna lay another egg. They don't keep reproducing.
Yeah, and we find that after about 3 years, the group is done for our purposes. We've let them go 4 and 5 years just to see it was not worth it.
Economically, yes.
Yeah, economically not worth it. I'm sure the heads thought it was worth it. So.
I don't know if you are wanting to reveal it, but we just started doing the meat birds, and the cost, we're finding that between the feed and all that, we're not very profitable at this point. But do you have your breakdown to where, and I'm not sure what New America does, we take it to a processing plant that's $5 a head.
I think we're paying $75.
Okay.
And then more for the kidlets. So I think in the end it's like $325. I don't know. I probably have to check that number to be sure, but it's not far. And we have to drive it there. You have to, transportation's killing it. Yeah. So we're going to restaurants.
And that's a wholesale price, right?
Right. But we're still going at $6 a pound.
Okay.
Because we just can't do it for less than that.
Right. That's sort of where we're at.
And yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
We have to count the fertility value as part of the equation, to make it truly worth it. So, and because it's part of the mixed system, we can. But yeah, it's not. No part of farming, as far as I'm concerned, is really easy.
So are your birds frozen after it's done, or you sell them all fresh?
We try to sell them all fresh. So all
That's
the
an awful lot of work to every week. And how many farmers markets do you do?
we do 4 farmers markets a week, but most of the birds go to restaurants. So those birds
That are, like, you have to deliver them, so how far away are the restaurants?
San Francisco Bay Area.
So it's worth it
But we're
to
already
do
going
like-
there for farmers markets. We're going there for CSA runs. The meat birds are about 15% of our gross income. The layers are, another 20% of our gross income. The hogs are another 15% of our gross income. And everything else is vegetables. So we're on the treadmill anyway. We have 2 bobtails in town almost every day. So
Where do you get your hogs from, dude?
we're using Marin Sun for.
Yeah, you know how much of a feed conversion for the meat bird?
I do not have a feed conversion. I'm guilty as charged. I do not have a feed conversion. And people ask us all the time, how much of it is pastured. I really don't have a solid number for that. One of the other things that we do is we grow our own grain. So we grow about, this year we had, I think, 75 acres of wheat, chicken, and we soak that grain in whey that we pick up from Cowbell Creamery, and they eat that whey-soaked grain as well as pelletized feed ration from our ale. So it's a lot of components between the grain, the whey, the pasture, and the feed pellet.
But do you use a starter in the first 3 weeks?
We do use starter for the first 5 weeks.
5 weeks? Yeah. Do you remember how much or how many?
I don't have that number, but I'd be happy to share it. I'd have to look it up. And this points to my lack of command of that number, points to the fact that I've got too much going on to keep in my head. part of what we do. And this is coming down this afternoon after the fall. Yeah, reasonably still, yes. So yeah, this morning at 3 o'clock, 4 people loaded up those chickens and headed off to Sacramento. Well, only one person was Sacramento, but 4 people do the harvesting in about an hour. And so they have to, having people will come in early, and we start at 3. And that we have to be at New American by 5:30. Because we want to be the first one through their line, so we can get the birds back, so we can have them ready to deliver to restaurants tomorrow. So, yeah, it's a lot of moving parts, but everything we do is a lot of moving parts. So, yeah, and so those houses will move down the orchard row and to a fresh piece of pasture, and we won't be back on this. Until sometime probably in March, we'll have a house back on this piece. And then by June 1st, we'll be out of that orchard altogether. And we have a 10-acre orchard that is I'll call it formerly abandoned orchard, that we use just for summer pasture, because you have to have somewhere to have these birds in the summer that has good shade. And so that pasture right now is young grass, well, this young mix, grass, alfalfa, clover, technical stuff. And we're controlling squirrels right in there right now, so the squirrels are eating pasture.
And that's
How are you controlling the squirrels?
Traps.
Really?
These afternoons where it's warm enough, they're out. I didn't get the picture in time, but I really wanted to have a picture of these bare spots out in that orchard where the squirrel mounds are, where they come out. They love that young grass.
And that old orchard is where you keep the birds in the
In the
120
summer,
day.
yes, yeah.
With the squirrels, are you animal welfare certified?
We are not any kind of humane certified right now. We had to change our housing style. They wanted us to build structures for hogs. My hogs love being outside in the winter. We have houses for the babies, but we had houses out for the larger animals. They never went in them, other than to scratch them, like scratching them, cheating them. But yeah, but it hasn't been an issue. Nobody's really beaten down the door for it at this point. But how did that tie in? I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I was going to let it slide, but because I'm making weird comments, but we used to be animal welfare. And when we flooded in 2017, our squirrel issue and our emergency exit plan was so severe that we just had to pull back for a while because we couldn't recover quick enough. But the squirrel issue, we couldn't do anything with them. We had to start to ask them to move along, and I wasn't sure how you handled your squirrel issue because it caused us tunnels. I mean, we literally dropped a couple of inches when the ground settled, like a whole underground cavern.
We kill a lot of squirrels in the traps. It's not enough to.
Yeah. So you're not putting out any bait or anything. You're just doing traps that.
Yeah.
You have to train the raptors to eat the squirrels.
Oh, I know. The chickens are just really easy pickings, I'm afraid. But it's a love-hate relationship with the raptors because we also have all these vegetables and we eat those raptors in their vegetables. We have a bald eagle right now that just came back. I mean, I don't know if it's the same bald eagle that comes every year, but it sits in the same tree every year, and every year it waits for pigs. And every year we see it grab at least one piglet. And so, because we care all of our own pigs, so we always have lots of piglets.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's a love-hate relationship.
So do you get all these chicks shipped in, or do you hatch them out?
No, we do buy all of our chicks, both the layers and the deep birds. We do not raise our own chicks, which we would love to do, but it's just another layer of complexity. So yeah, we buy everything.
So some are from very close here and there.
Some are from very close, but the Freedom Rangers are coming out of Pennsylvania.
But can you get them year round?
Yes.
In the winter as well?
Yes.
Because you're getting such a large volume?
Yeah, it's never been an issue for the meat birds.
Question from the internet. Do you use an egg washer? If so, what kind?
I don't remember the name of it. We do use an egg washer. It came out of Iowa, and had it for probably 10 years now, and it's great. It makes a huge difference in the labor.
We have an Aqua Magic, old Aqua Magic, so if they're looking for a brand, National Poultry Equipment, they're expensive.
Yeah, they're expensive, but labor's expensive too. Yeah, sure.
Question? Your broilers from Pennsylvania, are they transported by air or by truck?
They are transported by air. Postal Service. And we generally get here in 2 days. And in the summer, we have occasional issues with it being too hot. And in the winter, we'll have occasional issues where it's too cold. So we haven't found a bird that performs as well as that bird in Pasture. So we continue using it. We've trialed some different birds, but we haven't found anybody closer to replace it with.
And there are some rangers out in this area or no?
I haven't tried any locally grown rangers. Anything else on that?
What kind of breed?
What kind of breed? On the meat birds or on the layers? The meat birds are a Freedom Ranger, or also known as a French Ranger. It really needs, for us, full 12 weeks, sometimes 13 weeks. We get back a good picture of one. Can't see very well in this picture. But it's a brown, large boned bird, a lot taller. You see the chicks there. It's a lot taller than a Cornish cross, but a lot thinner and much slower, but really pretty healthy. We don't have a lot of disease issues with them. We have raptor issues.
We don't have a guard dog.
We do not have a guard dog, no.
Have you considered it?
We have, in the winter we have 50 field workers running around. In the summer we have 80 field workers running around. So having guard dogs feels dangerous. So most guard dogs interact pretty well with humans, but you're going to have somebody that wants to tease the dog. You're going to have somebody that wants, it's not going to go.
Yeah.
So, guard dogs feel is not a good strategy for us. Which is one of the problems with I've been trying to work out with sheep. If we're going to have sheep, we're going to need something healthy to go along. So, for us, the pasture movement, the people who are making day-to-day decisions have to feel empowered to decide when they want to live. Because I can be looking at weather and I can be looking at other things, but they're up against, there's a muddy spot that's next, and I want to get through that muddy spot, way before this rain, or I want to jump over it, and there are details that I'm going to miss. So I feel like it's really important to trust the people who are working with the individual flocks to make their own decisions. And if I really disagree, we can have a chat about it. But most of the time, I want them to do what they see is best. We have discussions about what we're trying to achieve to make sure that we're all on the same page. But I really feel like it's important for people to feel empowered to make their own decisions and act.
You use a bedding inside the brooder house?
Inside the brooder house, we use a wood shaving, pine wood shaving, because the straw is too coarse for them. the babies. And for the larger birds, we do use straw. But yeah, and then we have to clean those houses out every week. I guess we should try the 6-inch rule, but we haven't gone there. Maybe we'll make it. But currently, we flail mow all of our layer pastures and some of our hog pastures all summer long because we have too much pasture all summer long. And so that, just to go back to that, I would like to have a good way to fresh chop that and feed it to the hogs. But doing something with it when it starts to get too big is really important. But again, both with the hogs and with the layers, we have to have that much to get through the winter and still have good green pasture all winter long. Otherwise, they'll just beat it up and it doesn't regrow fast enough.
Just a few more minutes here, if there's any burning last questions. And with the fresh chop, would you want to harvest it and remove it?
I would want to harvest it and feed it fresh to the as a porch chop. And they're not commonly around here. I think probably have to get up more towards into dairy country, like up around New Orleans, where you find them. Anybody's got one sitting in the backyard, the back field, we're looking for one. Those they look like a flail mower, and the fan just blows it out of you. You catch it in the wagon, either pulled by a separate tractor or buying the chopper. And with the meat birds being under the orchards, in the summer we have to mow a little bit for them, but not as much because the meat birds can just keep moving them pretty fast. Sometimes, if we run out of pasture, or if they eat pasture out too much, we'll plant some Sudan grass, which comes up incredibly fast, so you can have enough pasture to move them into. And then once, like the peaches are harvested and things like that, we can start moving the birds back in there. And all those things are getting irrigated anyway. And all of our orchards have these hanging micro sprinklers, which are also really nice for cooling the birds. On a hot summer day when it's 105 degrees, the birds did not like the smoke. We had a lot of fires, as you all know. So,
do you remember the mortality rate in the meat bear?
It really varies by season. Days over 105 are tough on the meat birds, and wet winter days are tough on the meat birds. Otherwise, it's not too bad. Like I said, the raptors now are our biggest problem, and just based on
the average,
well, right now we bring in 400 birds a week, and we're harvesting about 300 birds a week right now. So we're losing about 25%, and most of that is to raptors. So when we used the smaller houses, we didn't have hardly any raptor damage, but the edge effect of the smaller houses in the winter was a problem. So, but that's a rough number.
What is the edge effect?
Oh, just the house. Think of it as the surface area to volume ratio on the smaller houses. There's just a lot of edge, and if it's only 6 feet wide, water can penetrate through all sides and get to the center. And there was no sleeping platforms in those houses. Here you can see that raised sleeping platform. And those houses did not have sewer. But we're not using those houses currently. That's the graveyard. So.
Not to make a joke of it, but when I was growing up, my grandmother called it McDonald's fly-through. It is what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just part of the business.
Yeah, and I've had people get really upset about it. I understand it's upsetting to me, both financially and emotionally, but it is, these birds live an incredibly free life. And so when people do get upset about that, that is my, I think, you know, these birds are living outside, both the meat birds and the layers. We'll have golden eagles take full-size layers. So, yeah.
Well, on your meat birds, are the raptors harvesting the smaller ones or the ones that are just ready to be harvested?
They're typically going after the small, the mid-size.
It's the slow and the stupid. Ones that can't, because most chickens will make a sound when they see it and they'll duck and run. It's the ones that are going,
What was that?
where are you guys going? They're dinner. Yeah. It's called Darwin.
Yeah. Dogs are the worst though.
Oh.
Because the raptors are just coming in to get a snack, get a lunch. Dogs are coming in for sport. So so the dog gets into a lot of stuff.
So if you have a bird die out on pasture for whatever reason, overeating or whatever, how do you dispose of it?
We bury birds when we have a large die-off like that. Most of the time we don't have an issue unless there's a large die-off from, like when you get a 115-degree day and it's smoky, there's going to be some layers that aren't going to make it through that.
Can you leave them out for the coyotes?
Oh, no.
Yeah, you don't want to bring the coyotes in.
You train, you want to train.
But a lot of the
the
time, we will know, like when you don't have a large die-off, we will know we have a bird down until we see the vultures, and they've already cleaned it up. So they're on it early in the day. Yeah. So maybe that's a little too grand. Well, thank you all.
So much.
I hope that was helpful.
Yeah.